Thanks, Eleni. We're going back to East Africa, especially on the political risk that may be existing in the two main economies, Kenya and Tanzania. Joining me in studio is Brian Dlamini, Sovereign Risk Analyst from RMB, to discuss the political risk. Thank you very much for coming in. Let's start with Tanzania. President Jakaya Kikwete recently dismissed some key ministers and accused them of corruption. Is this reflective of what's driving the president's action right now?
I think one needs to unpack that and look at it twofold. On one side, he is under pressure from donors to clean up his government, to tackle corruption, deliver on reforms. He is due to receive, or rather the country is due to receive about what, $490 million US. So that one should look at it on the back of that. And then if we then look at the country from a domestic point of view, his party is obviously asking for the, delivery and change as well. Looking at as well what's going on internally in the party, they have to elect a successor to Jakaya at the end of this year. So there's calls for reform within his own party.
And do you feel these reforms are coming through in terms of have the political dynamics changed because of these risks?
Well, the political dynamics shouldn't change that much. In fact, we're looking at an improvement going forward because there's obviously a call for more accountability. We saw the Auditor General's report saying that money, funds have been going missing. So there's a whole lot more questions, or rather people pleading for good governance.
And that is the same call when we move to the Kenya, East Africa's biggest economy, Kenya. We have an election coming up either in December this year or in March next year. And there's already talk that we might have violence similar to what was seen in 2007, which is not great for business.
Absolutely. I think one needs to look at a report that was tabled by Odinga to his cabinet. Prime Minister. Yes, well, the Prime Minister mentioning to Cabinet that the security, state security and agency is picking up that there might be violence in the country, or violence brewing, should I say. I think one should look at it and say, well, this agency got a lot of flack in 2007 and 2008 for not picking it up. So I think they are now alerting authorities to this fact and getting people psyched up and getting the security apparatus, more geared towards, being ready for any election violence. And everyone must be really conscious of that fact.
Are investors therefore taking note of the political noises there and just trying to make sure that the country is not being funded towards that kind of uncertainty that might lead to the violence seen in 2007? Well,
it's a wait-and-see approach from investors. There is one big thing that the investors are watching, which is the ICC, the ongoing ICC case,
right.
Which clearly sends a signal to politicians that they cannot mobilize based on tribal lines. That is off the cards. So going forward, one will be watching what unfolds with regards to that and how it impacts on who can run for the presidency and how the political actors react based on that.
Brian, the other big question right now is Kenya is fighting a war in Somalia because of the Al-Shabaab, the militant group that is an arm of Al-Qaeda. And how is this a risk that plays into investors' minds and places Kenya into the spotlight generally?
Well, government will have to concentrate, obviously, on domestic security, but they will also have to focus on like you say, the Al-Shabaab. Luckily for Somalia, they've got the African Union forces that are in the country. Luckily as well is that the threat of Al-Shabaab has been decreasing over the past couple of months. It still remains a risk, however. We also are aware of the fact that going forward, the organization will remain, say, more splintered because of ideology. And as anti-terrorism action increases in the region, one would expect that the threat will kind of die down as the region tackles it as a regional problem.
All right, that's all the time. We have no word yet on who is likely to win the election at this point.
Well, Odinga is tipped to be leading, but yeah, one will have to wait and see.
All right, thank you very much, Brian Dlamini, Sovereign Risk Analyst from RMB. Thank you for coming in studio.